Today I'm going to be reviewing my go-to camera for photos. I also think it's the perfect camera for travel. So before the end of last year, I was going on a bunch of trips to Korea, Taiwan. I wanted a camera that is not only portable, but is something that takes really good photos. I'm used to bringing around my DSLR camera. I used to bring a whole backpack dedicated just for my camera, but I kind of wanted to downgrade, and since I was out and about with friends, didn't want to bring the whole setup. So this is where this camera, the Ricoh GR 3X, it's backwards. I think this is the perfect camera for travel, and just in general, it's really nice, really portable, really small. A lot of people compare this camera to the Fujifilm X100V. It's similar in price point and also has a lot of similar features, but I think this one's a little bit better, a little bit of a trade-off with the portability and the fact that I can fit in my pocket, but we'll get into those a little bit later. So yeah, today I'm going to go over some of the pros and cons that I have of this camera. It's not perfect, but for me right now, I think it suits my shooting style and what I like to shoot. So hopefully if you're in the market for a travel camera, this review will help you. So starting off with the pros. I think the first pro about this camera is portability. This camera is really, really small, as you can see. It's smaller than my head, or I don't know what I can compare it to. Maybe my phone. For me personally, I really like a camera that I can fit in my pocket, get the shot, put it back in my pocket, and go back to whatever I was doing before. I think before I used to shoot with a lot of DSLRs that required me to carry a bag. I had to carry the camera itself, and then when I brought the camera out to shoot, I had to kind of keep it outside. I couldn't just put it back in the bag. I also needed to carry around a strap. It was just a lot, but this one, I could take it out of my pocket, switch the button, and we're already ready to shoot. So the second pro is image quality. And for something about this size, I was kind of hesitant, didn't really know what to expect from something of this size, but really shooting on it, you can really see that the quality is there. And this is compared to a lot of the Fujifilm cameras. So the Fujifilm X V100, that series. Fujifilm does have film recipes, which has a leg up from the Ricoh, but with the Ricoh, you can also have a couple film recipes. It's not as robust as the Fujifilm series, but there are ways to get film recipes on this Ricoh. There's actually a website called ricohrecipes.com, and it has a lot of different recipes. There's also an app which I use on the App Store. I think it's Ricoh Recipes as well, but currently I use the positive film simulation. I think it's pretty standard comparatively to a lot of other film recipes. This one's just pretty normal. The colors are just a little bit more vivid, but nothing too crazy compared to a lot of the other film simulations. I have a couple other film simulations called Calypso, which is just one I found online. Makes everything a little bit yellow. Positive emulsion, which is a film recipe. But yeah, you can see that you can definitely have recipes on the Ricoh. You just have to do it in a different way. So the last pro is ease of use. And so this kind of differs from portability. When I think portability, I think of the ability to put in your pocket, really small footprint, but ease of use is in terms of actually using the camera. So when I use the Ricoh GR3X, I really think about it as using a point and shoot. I kind of shoot in auto, and I know a lot of people are cringing right now. The only thing I really control is the exposure, which you can do on this knob to increase or decrease the exposure. That's kind of all I do. I know you can do a lot of other things, but for me, it kind of reminds me of simpler times when I used to have one of those old point and shoots. And not to mention, you don't even need an SD card. You can take photos with this camera without SD card. I think you can take about 2 gigs, which is a decent amount. But yeah, just the fact that you can shoot on this camera, take really good quality photos, don't even need an SD card, I think that puts it on a pretty good pedestal for me at least. So the cons. I think the first con about this camera is the price. This camera is just over about $1,000, which is a lot for a camera. If you think about it in terms of DSLRs, that's not too much. Lenses are usually around that price point, but for something such as small as this, I still think that 1,000 is a lot for this. It is competitive with the Fujifilm X100V, which is around the same price, but I think this one is a little bit more worth it just because of the portability. I don't really expect to be buying another camera. I think this is kind of endgame. It's a lot, but I think it was worth it. The second con is the fact that there is no viewfinder and no flash. So if you can see here on the body, there is no viewfinder. It's just the digital viewfinder, which is okay, but coming from shooting a DSLR or any other traditional camera, no viewfinder is a little bit, you gotta get used to it, but it's not the end of the world. The thing that really lacks is the flash. When you're inside or, I don't know, trying to shoot in low light settings, you kind of have to just play around with the ISO and exposure. I kind of really try and stay away from using this on the inside. I really think this camera shines on the outside when there's really good light. But when you are inside, I think you just kind of have to hold the camera steady and hope that you get the shot. But there are accessories that Ricoh sells that you can buy. So you can buy an external flash, you could buy an external viewfinder. But for me, that kind of takes away the purpose of this camera, which is kind of portability and good image quality. For me, those are kind of the cons. The next con is the fact that it is a fixed lens. So like I mentioned before, I have the Ricoh GR3X, which is the 40mm equivalent. The other one is, again, the 28mm equivalent, which is the non-X version. But yeah, fixed lens, kind of have to get used to moving with the camera as opposed to zooming in or out with a regular camera. I kind of like this personally. I'm kind of used to shooting on fixed lenses just because on my DSLR I had a prime lens, which is also fixed as well. I think it kind of puts you in good creative situations where you kind of have to learn how to better frame your shot without having the crutch of zooming in. But maybe that's just me. If you're looking for something with a zoom, this camera is definitely not for you. And if you're okay with 40mm equivalent, then this camera might be good for you. And the last con, this is just really small. This is a really rare case. I really don't think it will happen to anyone else, but it did happen to me when I was in the Philippines. I woke up a little bit earlier just to catch the sunrise, try and get some good photos of that, and it was just really hot, very humid. So when I took the Ricoh out to take photos, the inside of the lens right here kind of fogged up and it wouldn't go away. So I couldn't get a chance to get a really clean shot of the sunrise. It was almost like the camera was, you know how if you walk outside and it's really humid and your glasses fog up, that's kind of what it was doing to the actual lens itself. But that's kind of a rare case. I think it was just too humid. I don't think anyone should be really using their camera when it's like that humid outside. But yeah, that's just a small con, really rare case. So should you buy this camera? I think it really depends on what you're looking for. For me personally, I was looking for something that's portable, really good quality photos, and it's something that's easy to use. In the beginning, when I first started taking photos, I really wanted to maximize the amount of customization that I had. So DSLRs, I can bring all my lenses, changing all the settings. But now I'm kind of thinking about it in the opposite. So minimizing all my choices. So minimizing the focal length, minimizing the literal size of the camera as well, just so that I only have to think about taking the photo. I think that really helps me to become a better photographer, and in general I don't have to worry about fixing all the settings or if there's another battery, or it really just helps me to focus on getting the shot and going back to doing whatever I was doing before. I think it ultimately depends on what you kind of want out of camera. If you want something with a little bit more of customization, I'd go for a DSLR, but if you want something simple that takes good quality shots, I think this one's for you. Also, if you could live with the cons, I think one thing I forgot to mention is that this camera does have video. The video is not the best. I definitely would do video on my iPhone or the Canon PowerShot V10, which I did do a review on, put it somewhere here. But yeah, that is my review of the Ricoh GR3X. Hope you guys learned a little bit about the camera and my experience with the camera, and I will see you guys in the next one.